Hello everyone. There's a few things that have been quite constant over the past few years, like COVID, McDonald's ice cream machines not really working all that well almost ever. Oh, car prices. Car prices being astronomically expensive as we've seen in the past 2 years. And one that we've not really taken any concern to, at least most of us haven't, and that's cars like this. Cars like this are going away, dying to be precise. And they're dying fast. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about it real quick about why cars like this 2021 Chevrolet Malibu is going away. And many cars like it, like Dodge Charger, Dodge Challenger, Ford. All the Ford sedans are also dying. So today we're going to talk a little bit about it, and I'll give you my reasons on why I think they're dying in a very, very quick way. My name is MJ. Thank you again for tuning in, and yeah, let's do it. And before I go into it, I'd like to mention that I really like the Chevy Malibu. I've driven it now for a few days and it's really, really nice. It does everything a mid-size sedan in this segment, or full-size sedan. I think this Malibu, it is a full-size, should do. It drives really well, making not a lot of power. I'm going to guesstimate about 230 at most, 190. Maybe even closer probably, but it's really nice. It's very smooth. The transmission's also really smooth. The question is, why aren't people buying more of these cars? Why isn't this a car many people in this segment, in this price point, will consider? And that brings me to part number one of why I think cars like this are dying. Well, the numbers are proving it, and why they're not coming back, and why the automakers are saying they are not making cars like this anymore. History of these cars. Now, the history of these cars haven't been the benchmark of like reliability or interior quality. We'll get to that in a minute. So generations like Generation X or baby boomers didn't have a swell time with these cars back then. There were not many people at that time really saying, I'm going to buy this because it's the most reliable car out there. Many people, I'm guessing, in the 60s never said, oh, I want a Malibu because the interior quality is also glorious. And it's even true today. If you get into this car, which we'll do in a minute, you're going to notice the very glaring differences between the interior quality with Japanese cars, which were selling far, far more back then and almost just about the same today. German cars, which people who had the money could afford, with a lot more nicer interiors and nicer quality, albeit not as reliable, but people would take the quality and how they looked back then over the quality that is today. History has sort of grown people who were born later in the 90s watching their parents and family drive Toyotas and Hondas and have almost no issues with them, get into that line, love Toyotas and Hondas, and love more Japanese cars. Reliability also. These cars haven't always been known to have the best transmissions or the best engines historically, and Toyotas and Hondas have been more reliable on that front, so they just want to continue the trend of that Japanese cars that they used to having. And for those who just like German cars and the better, nicer interiors, some of them grew up with their parents having the money to afford nicer cars, and that's what they know, and that's what the trend has continued with. So these cars have suffered in that light, especially here in North America, where there are not that many. I can count on the highway today how many Malibus I see. I see loads more Toyotas, Hondas, BMWs, and Mercedes, very rare Malibus. After driving for like 2 days in Toronto, I finally spotted another one. Look at that. Oh my gosh, it's gotten so cold. So quick. I had to move inside. The weather just got so bad so quick. Welcome to Canada. That's how it is. It changes in such a snap. So as we're talking about reliability outside, it just started snowing really heavily, so we're going to continue inside. Practicality is another key reason why sedans like these are dying. Now, not to say sedans are dying in general. I was reading a publication on the internet by, I believe, the Business Insider, that said sedans are dying, but it's not that bad for many manufacturers. Many people are still buying like BMW 3 Series and Mercedes C300s. There are loads of them on the road, as you see. Many people are buying the Honda Accords, Toyota Corollas, and Toyota Camrys. Cars like that are still sold in the millions on a yearly basis. The reality of what's really going away is cars like these, North American cars. The Insider, I believe it was the Business Insider, that quoted a lot of people, the millennials, were getting married a lot later. Back in the 60s and 70s, people got married early in the 20s. So there was always room for one person to have an SUV and one person to have like a utility vehicle, which is usually an SUV, and one person to have like a sedan that they use primarily for just errands and running around, and utility vehicle for when they wanted to move heavy furniture and get stuff from point A to point B and stuff like that. In our generation, however, people are staying single longer, so people need one vehicle that they can do everything with. Either move things from point A to point B, or just carry anything that they needed. So SUVs are more practical in that sense. I believe the other one we should take a drive and discuss it as we do. As you know, for many people who live in Europe or outside North America, the distance traveled in North America is quite a lot. To get from point A to point B, you're driving a reasonable distance. It's not, places aren't close. For example, I went to check a car out today, I drove 2 hours. That's just the reality of things. And that's considered a nice, easy drive here in Toronto, or a 2-hour drive, or an hour drive. You're constantly on the highway. People consider SUVs and larger vehicles a lot more comfortable and a lot more safer than cars like these, especially in a place like Canada, where you get a lot of snow during the winter. This year, 2022 particularly, the snow is really terrible. People feel safer in SUVs. Bigger cars, higher cars, they feel better. There's studies that say a person who has an accident in a sedan is 7.6 times more likely to die as opposed to a SUV. These studies have, I believe, been tested. How? I don't know. But all of these stats are out there. And when people read this, especially people getting into the vehicle or getting into the automotive world for the first time, they read these stats and they Google stuff and they see, oh my God, the chances of me dying in a crash in an SUV is much lower than a sedan. They gravitate more to an SUV. It's just what the internet is spilling out. So I believe the internet has contributed quite a lot to the death of these cars, especially for North American made brands. Again, being realistic, if I had the money, I wouldn't buy a Chevy Malibu. It wouldn't be my first choice. If I hadn't driven in a car for the channel or for today just randomly, I wouldn't know how good these cars are, because there's just no one really talking about them, no one advocating for them. They're just not that much in the media. And cars like BMW, Toyotas, Hondas that are more in the media are more likely to get, the crowd following, the content, and people really advocating for these cars, and more likely to sell more. Those are some of the reasons and realities as to why cars like this aren't sticking around, are basically going away, and it's just a reality, a sad reality at that. But until then, we're going to keep driving, keep pushing cars like this. I think we're going to end the video there today, so thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.